this February 13, 2012. Moving students at a meeting to order. Secretary Naya, please call the roll.
Andrew Kerr.
Here.
Richard Amy.
Here.
Mariah Johnson. Here. Tony Johnson.
Here.
Brett Stewart.
Here.
Carrie Cunningham. Here. Robbie Egan.
Yo.
Sean Johnson.
Here.
Callie Nathan. Here. Billy Wentz. George Caswell. Sarah Sarah. Here. Colin Gorman. Nick Hunt.
Here.
Matt Kemper. Here. Andrew Johnson. Here. Anna Vulture. Here. Elsa Fox. Here. Don Bell. Patrick Hill.
Here.
Sean Moore.
Here.
Aaron Miles.
Here.
Don Hunt.
Here.
Peter Bragg. Here. Here. Michelle Kelly. Ben Caswell.
Here.
Chad Cullen.
Here.
Evan Thompson. Here. 26 PC. Here. ACM.
Here.
HIV. Students. Active Mind. Here. Allies. Here. Amnesty. APO. Here. Autism. Here. Biosphere.
Here.
BSCO. Bomb Squad. Here. Cheers.
Here.
Civil War.
Here.
2012.
Here.
2013. Here. 2014.
Here.
2015. Plastics.
Here. Here.
Republican.
Here.
Close against Canada. Here. Here. UCF. UTF.
Here.
Entrepreneurship.
Here.
Question. Here. Fencing. Here. Foursquare. Here. Game Club. Diversity. Here. DECA. Here. Driven Club. Here. SMAC. Here. Multiple Choir.
Here.
Habitat.
Here.
Ice hockey.
Here.
Interfaith.
Here.
International affairs.
Here.
International club. Japan club. Jazz appreciation.
Here.
LASA. Law and justice. Here. Lutheran Student Union.
Here.
Men's rugby.
Here.
NAACP. Operation Smile. Here. Allen Nightingale. Here. Change Carroll Farm. Peace Club. Here. Health.
Here.
Feedback. Here. Sarah. Here. St. House. Here. Secular Student Line. Here. Shasta Dark.
Here.
Here. Visitor students. St. Jude. Here. Student alumni. Here. Swing Club. Women's rugby.
Here.
Yara.
Here.
I move to approve last week's.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Abstentions? Minutes are approved. Moving on to officer reports. The Executive Committee on Fiscal Policy met this past Wednesday. Treasurer Johnson will present one of its recommendations later on in her officer report. I know with Dean Ramsey this morning, we talked extensively about the Senate's budget. I would be talking with President Riggs on Wednesday and Provost Zappi on Thursday. If you have any concerns or questions for them, please email me prior to those dates. George Neely will be visiting next Monday's Senate. I'll have Billy talk more about that in his report later. And Senators Palmer and Parliamentarian McConnell, please see me after the meeting. Richard.
No report.
Mariah.
So, as Andrew said, we met about fiscal policy, and there's going to be a new thing that we're going to be kind of highlighting this semester. And I will send out kind of a template this week. But what it is
send your leadership changes to me. And also, if you'd like to meet with me, if you'd like me to come to your club meeting to talk about concerns with the Senate, I talked that in my emails, but just send me an email and we can try to find a date.
Thank you, Brad. Okay. No more officer reports. Is there any old business? All those in favor? All those opposed? Abstentions? ROTC is untabled. I now yield the floor to Vice Provost Jack Ryan, who would give us the faculty perspective on the situation.
Not sure what you mean by that, Andrew. What you see in front of you is the motion that was presented at the faculty meeting. The motion was defeated 57 to 53. That means that ROTC transfer credit, the two courses that receive full unit credit from Dickinson College, will not be allowed to transfer here to Gettysburg College. As many of you know, we have 10 cadets on campus. 2 of those cadets receive scholarships. They're a dedicated group, the people that I know. They commit an awful lot of time to ROTC. They travel up to Dickinson early in the morning, between, 2 to 4 days a week, sometimes more. But the faculty voted against this because of gender identity issues. They felt that our discrimination policy still spoke to the issue of transgendered people, and they did not want to support this ROTC motion based on the issue of gender identities. So I'm more than happy to take questions from this body. I'm not sure what else I can tell you except how the faculty voted. Yes, sir.
I was gonna ask, if the Senate takes a stance in the opposite direction, is it possible that they would re-vote again, or is it something that only would vote on once? Since it's already been voted on, they wouldn't revisit it.
I believe that this issue will probably come before the faculty again. The question that you're asking is a question of timing. I really can't predict that. The issue will have to go to the faculty council. The faculty council will have to get it back onto another faculty meeting agenda. A policy, a motion will have to come forward, and then they'll vote on it in traditional fashion. That said, we're going to need a new policy, though, because of course Don't Ask, Don't Tell has been rescinded. So we're going to have a policy that states in unequivocal terms why we are not accepting these transfer credits. That is not, to my knowledge, that has not been put in motion yet. So that's a long way of saying yes, you'll probably have an opportunity to engage in the debate again, but I can't say when that will be.
Larson? Patrick?
Have any self-identified transgender kids applied for the Gettysburg ROTC program?
Not that I'm aware of. Of course, I would never ask a question like that. I don't have information like that, so I'm not aware of anybody.
Because of the Army's new policy, we simply don't ask. If you're a transgender person, we don't care. The only reason that it would come up is when we go to do a medical examination to actually process you into the Army. So in keeping with the new policy, transgender students can technically take ROTC.
Has the ROTC perspective, has any members of the ROTC been allowed to present their case to the faculty in person?
No.
Do you think that they should?
I mean,
I met with most of the ROCT cadets when we were thinking this through and trying to come to what we thought was the appropriate strategy. Traditionally, we don't have students present their cases in the faculty meetings. It was my suggestion that it probably wouldn't be a good idea to have the cadets present their case to the faculty, to let the faculty debate the issue in their traditional fashion. In hindsight, that may have not been the right outside advice, but I still think because the debate was civil, there were a lot of trustees in the room that evening. I think both sides aired their case as well. It was a very close vote, as I said when we started. It probably could have gone the other way if we had a different group of people in the room. But maybe next time, members of the faculty would have to take it probably to the faculty council. They might want to have students who are ROTC cadets speak to the faculty as a whole.
Aaron, I'm just still a little confused as to why, what is the reason that they're not being rewarded credits? Because if the policy is to just not ask, then what does it matter anymore if you're transgender or gay or lesbian? And why aren't they getting, I guess my question is, why aren't they getting credit? What is the argument against giving the credit?
Well, originally, the cadets weren't receiving credit because of don't ask, don't tell policy. Back in the 1990s, the ROTC program was sort of moved off campus. A few cadets lingered, but by 91, 92, it was pretty much gone. When don't ask, don't tell became part of the Army's policy, I think there was a vote in 2006 keeping ROTC restrictions in place, transfer credits in place, and that was because of don't ask, don't tell. But when don't ask, don't tell was rescinded, I mean, you can see the motion right here, that's at the core of the original policy. The faculty who argued against the transfer credit felt that it would be discriminatory against transgendered people. It was really an argument about gender identity. Now you're asking an appropriate question because you're thinking about this rationally. We're part of the Central Pennsylvania Consortium. Any class that anyone in this room takes at Franklin and Marshall or Dickinson transfers to Gettysburg really without much process at all. The registrar simply accepts those credits. But this is an issue of discrimination according to members of the faculty. For not giving credit. They want to uphold the ban on transferring credit for ROTC classes only. There's only 2 classes where there's 1 unit of credit offered at Dickinson. That's Military Science 301 and Military Science 401. Obviously, you can tell by the numeric designator, these are upper level classes, and students have to be in ROTC for a while in order to take those classes.
Sam, Andy, Rose, and Matt.
Just a question. Does Dickinson have a policy similar to this, or are they awarding credit for such classes?
Dickinson has a Department of Military Science. So now I can't answer this directly. I'm sure Dickinson has a policy against discrimination, but they don't have a policy against ROTC transfer credits because Dickinson hosts an ROTC department.
Andy.
Has the faculty been made aware of any discussion on this topic here at the Student Senate?
The evening that we had,
Evening of the vote.
yes, Andrew addressed the faculty and said that the Student Senate, I haven't read the minutes of the meeting, they haven't been published yet, but he said that the Student Senate discussed this issue.
Rose.
Can non-ROTC students take that class?
Yes,
So-
non-ROTC students, Rose, can take that class. Right now, there are students from Penn State Harrisburg who are taking that class for transfer credit purely for their own edification. They're not in the ROTC program at Dickinson.
So if I took that class, I would get credit for that going to Gettysburg?
No, that's another wise question. I think you would have to talk to the chair of your department to see if that credit could be transferred. I realize that that's an odd answer, but if you were taking the class,
Just-
you're not an
just as an
ROTC
elective.
as an elective,
Yeah.
but you would have to talk to the chair of your department, this is the only way that I can think this through, and you would ask the chair if you could have the credit count toward your major.
So
I realize we're talking hypothetically here, but that's,
no, but I mean like as an elective, like I'm a political science globalization major.
right?
So if I wanted to fill one of my other 32 electives with that, and
Right.
it doesn't fall under a department,
Right.
but I'm not an ROTC, like I would go to Sean Baker and ask him, or
And you could go to Sean Baker or Jim Duffy, but, ultimately it would probably work its way around to the provost's office. I mean, that's an interesting question. I can say that there are students from Penn State Harrisburg taking the class who are not ROTC students who will receive transfer credit.
Right. So what about Franklin Marshall? Are they allowing credit for ROTC students?
Franklin and Marshall has one, or had, I should say, one ROTC cadet, and that cadet does not, as of last year, does not receive credit. I'm not sure about now.
Do they have similar law? Do they have similar regulations as we do?
They probably do, and it's probably connected to Don't Ask, Don't Tell, but I have not read those, Matt, so I can't say for sure.
I have two questions. First of all, we are saying that ROTC is not allowed to receive transfer credits, but isn't that, first of all, discriminatory against ROTC, which is kind of contrary to what we are applying in the first place, discrimination? That's my first question, and also maybe if you could tell us, if you happen to remember, what maybe some certain specific reasons for the vote were for the people who voted to keep the ban.
Well, to answer your first question, Kevin, a member of the faculty stood up and announced to the entire body that no matter how the vote went, some group would be discriminated against. And so that it was a really Manichaean in design. So someone was going to lose. Now, to your second question, reasons against.
I was just curious if you could say maybe any of the things that the faculty had said were reasons to keep the ban in place.
I would say that the core reason that the faculty voted to keep the ban in place had to do with our own discrimination policy, which covers gender identity. And they felt that because the military still discriminates against transgendered people, and they can't be part of the military, that for our own principles, we needed to uphold this restriction for these two classes. That's really reductive for a way to sum up what was 45 minutes at least of debate, but I would say that that was at the core.
My second question, that was one question, I guess. My second question is concerning what was said at the faculty meeting. You said that President Burr made comments speaking on behalf of the student body, and I do not have physical minutes, like you said, they're not written yet, but I do have a copy of what was said based on the audio transcript. And it says, contrary allies, Senate voted to support the proposal because it would be unfairly discriminatory against peers, especially those who want to join the civil service, and would penalize those seeking different career paths. If Senate hasn't already discussed this, I'm curious as to why it said that Senate voted to support this proposal when this discussion is happening tonight and the faculty meeting happened today. I'm not sure how exactly Senate has discussed this already.
Okay,
Okay, you're not asking me that question.
thing with the whole, like, what Andrew said at the faculty meeting, like, literally, we asked, like, the first week, like, we said ROTCs and we discussed this, anyone have anything to say? No one said anything. Andrew went and he said a general consensus was taken. That doesn't mean that a vote was actually taken. It just means that basically what he's, like, it just means that we asked, no one said anything, and that's all that happened. Like, it's not like we went forward and said, like, the Senate discussed the whole thing. We're doing that tonight. That's what we're doing. We never had a full discussion. But he said that there was a general consensus, which just meant that no one said anything at the time. That's all that happened.
I feel like the general
There's no such thing as general consensus.
It's in the modern rules of order, Andy, like, look it up. It's there.
Okay, moving on from the issue, I believe Sarah Fredero was next in speaking order.
It goes along with Rose's question. So if Ben was to go to his department head, whichever he is, or if anybody was going to, could he ask for credit, or is it these two classes who can specifically ban from his curriculum? Because I know personally, is it strictly because he is ROTC? Is that title?
First of all, it's these two courses because they are the two courses that receive 1 unit. There are other courses on the books at Dickinson College that receive a half unit, and we don't have partial credit here. So the only courses that Ben Flanders or any of his ROTC peers could receive would be the 1 unit credits. But again, the question that you're asking, it's sort of nuanced. Could he go to his department chair and ask for transfer credit? He might be able to do that. We're talking, or the faculty was talking about the ROTC in total.
Okay, moving on.
I think you have another.
Yeah, I have a speaking order. It will be Mike DeLue, Rose Kane, and Billy Weiss, and then I'll present the 3 possible options for the senators, and we'll then close the debate and move on to the next issue, which will be the 4 credit hour. For the sake of time, Mike DeLue.
So I just had a couple of comments. I think we're drawing a couple of false analogs here, specifically when talking about this discrimination. I do understand what people are saying when they're saying we're discriminating against one group or the other when we're coming about this, but it is entirely different to discriminate against a career path and a group of people who are protected by our non-discrimination policy, that being transgender individuals. This is trying to say that discriminating against someone who is a butcher is the equivalent of discriminating against someone who is gay. They're entirely different. A career path is you can enter into, and you can also exit out of. You cannot enter into and exit out of being a transgender individual. So I believe that this analog is not one that can be drawn with any significant weight there. Additionally, I was under the impression that the 300 and 400 level classes that we're talking about here, 301 and 401, are not able to be taken by civilians. One has to have a contract with the military. Can you clarify that for me?
I can clarify that because I spoke directly to the commander of the ROTC unit, Pete Lugar, and I asked him if any student could take those classes for credit if the student was not connected to ROTC. And he said, yes, that was possible. It's a case-by-case basis. As I said, military science is a department at Dickinson College, and therefore, I guess class size would probably be an issue. I didn't go into the details with Commander Lugar, but he was the one who told me that there are students from Penn State Harrisburg now taking, I believe it's the 300 level class, for credit, and they are not ROTC cadets. But I think the best way to think about it is it's a case-by-case basis. I don't know the deliberating body, whether it's Pete and his second in command, Eric Rodney, or whether there's a committee that makes these decisions. But he did say that it was judged on a case-by-case basis.
So I'm simply just, I guess I was misinformed in that particular case then. So I'm just trying to say that this is not discrimination against a group of people. This is not the same as something like discriminating against race or class or something like that. This is discriminating based on the career path of a group of individuals. Additionally, I'd like to make the case that this is something that has been in place for a while here. This has been the case for everyone coming in, and every ROTC member who decides to come to Gettysburg College and not Dickinson knows that this is going to be the case. I don't have any, we've been in a lot of contact with the ROTC members. There's been a lot of discussion, particularly between allies. The LGBT group here on campus, we're very concerned about this issue. A lot of discussion has been had, and I'm really happy with that. I've got to talk to the ROTC guys. They're great people. But but I don't think that going all the way with approval of the policy without having any backup in place where this would go against our non-discrimination policy here at Gettysburg is the way to go with this. And so I think that something does need to be devised, but that more time should be had before we take a stance on this, particularly because the time issue here is moot. If the faculty were to vote on this, it would take a number of sessions. As you explained, the policy would have to go to first one group, and then discussion, and then vote. And those are 2-week intervals. I don't think that there's a really pressing time thing here. I think the discussions here could be to carry it on, and we could come to a better decision rather than just getting rid of this. And we could come to something better. I don't have anything specifically to propose right now. As I said, we're in discussions.
My first question is, Ben, you had said earlier that you just don't ask, so a transgender person could come to Gettysburg and enroll in our ROTC program.
Correct.
But why, I feel like there was a disconnect then, because that's the main argument the faculty used to not fully expand. Can you clarify maybe?
The discrimination comes in, correct me if I'm wrong here. The discrimination comes in when that individual tries to enlist in the United States military. There is a medical examination which they will not pass.
Right. So our ROTC is not discriminatory. It's joining the military that's the discrimination against those transgender people. Yes.
Well, I can't say yes to that, Rose. And that wasn't what the faculty debate was about. The faculty debate was strictly about ROTC transfer credit.
Correct me if I'm wrong, that also wasn't one of the points that was brought up, I don't think. You guys were forgotten in the policy committee was that transgender students could actually join the ROTC program, correct? I don't think that's really brought up as an argument point.
That evening in the room?
I don't think it was clarified that transgender students could join the ROTC program here.
That was not correct.
So that's one of the things that really got left out of the argument. Well, also, I know you might not have the descriptions, but one of the big arguments was what the classes actually entailed. By chance, you have those that way we can understand how they fit Gettysburg curriculum too.
I'll just give the brief description of that military science 301 is this? It's called Adaptive Military Team Leadership. Challenges cadets to study, practice, and evaluate adaptive leadership skills as they're presented with challenging scenarios related to squad tactical operations. Cadets receive systemic and specific feedback on their leadership attributes and actions. Based on such feedback, as well as with their own self-evaluations, cadets continue to develop their leadership and critical thinking abilities. The focus is developing cadets' tactical leadership abilities and to enable them to succeed at ROTC's Summer Leadership Development Assessment course. In the faculty conversation, it was pointed out to the faculty that this class spans 2 semesters, and the final piece that I just read means the cadets go to Fort Lewis in Washington State for this summer class. So you're looking at a course that lasts for 2 semesters plus a good portion of the summer. The 401, that's MSC 401, Adaptive Military Leadership, develops cadets' proficiency in planning, executing, and assessing complex operations, functioning as a member of a staff, and providing performance feedback to subordinates. Cadets assess risk, make ethical decisions, and lead fellow ROTC cadets. Lessons on military justice and personnel processes that prepare cadets to make the transition to Army officers. MLS 4 cadets analyze, evaluate, and instruct cadets at lower levels. Both their classroom and battalion leadership experiences are designated to prepare MSL 401 cadets for their first full unit assignment. They identify responsibilities of key staff, coordinate staff roles, and use of situational opportunities to teach, train, and develop subordinates. That course 2 spans 2 semesters. Sure. Can I go now?
Okay, so I had Senate policy work on this. These are the options for the senators. Senate Resolution 006A is to put it to a referendum. It's one of your powers as a senator to do so. This would need 2/3 of the Senate body assembled in order to pass. This would then forward the matter into the hands of the student body and take it out of the Senate's hands. And the Senate would then have to live by whatever the vote of the student body is. And the process for that would be you would throw it to the Board of Elections to come up with a question. You guys would approve the question, and the question would be posed to the student body. Version B is supporting the awarding of credit to the ROTC students, and version C is the support of the faculty's decision to uphold the grant. Is there any questions? Those are your options. No, you technically can go to that. It's up to you. Yes, Patrick.
How will the voting occur?
For the referendum or
for any of the
We'll vote. You have to vote on. You have to vote on all the resolutions. You have to vote on all the resolutions, except one of them needs 2/3 per the Constitution, and then that would then forward the matter and take the power out of your hands. The other two is a simple up or down vote, like every other resolution we pass. Call me.
So Andrew, the referendum is basically like a CNAP.
Yep, it'll be just the way like you vote. Yes. Matt.
Motion to vote on B?
Second.
Or at least to discuss it?
Motion has been moved and seconded. Is there any questions? No discussion on B. Motion B. Motion B is supporting of the awarding of academic credit to ROTC students from Dickinson College. It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Abstentions?
Motion roll call.
Secretary Nyack, please call the roll.
Richard Dean.
No.
Mariah Johnson.
Yes.
Carrie Cunningham.
No.
Robbie Egan.
Yes.
Sean Johnson.
Yes.
Caroline Naismith.
Yes.
Billy Weiss. George Caswell.
Yes.
Sarah Federa.
Yeah.
Nick Thomas.
Yes.
Matt Kenseth.
Yes.
Anthony Palmer.
Yes.
Amanda Baldessari.
Yes.
Melissa Fox.
Yes.
John Gill. Patrick Hill.
Yes.
Sean Meyer.
Yes.
Aaron Allen.
Yes.
John Penn.
Yes.
Mira Brad.
No.
Christiane Federici.
Yes.
Ben Kaplan.
Abstain.
Chad Cohen.
Yes.
Kathleen Thompson.
Yes.
Mr. Parliamentarian, what is the count?
21 yeses, 3 noes.
Motion passes. The Senate's official stance on the issues that we fully support ROTC credit. Okay, moving on to the next item of new business. I invite Jack again to talk about the fourth credit hour.
Boy, oh boy. All right, how long does this meeting last?
It's around.
Till around 8.
As long as we want.
All right, well, I've come completely prepared. I have the full PowerPoint that was presented to the faculty. I'm more than happy to show that to you if you want to go through it. But it's in black and white for a reason. But what you're looking at is the course credit form. This is a form that every faculty member has to review and then has to make a choice on the fourth credit hour, and it has to be signed by the faculty member, and it has to be endorsed by the faculty member's chair. These forms should start coming into the provost's office around March 9th, just before everyone goes on spring break. There's a committee that's comprised of the members of the Academic Policy and Program Committee, APPC, and the Committee on Learning Assessment, COLA. It includes students on this committee. Now, the form, we need the form because of our accreditation process. I think That's the simplest way to state it. The federal law requires that students in a class, if the class transfers, maybe I'll tell it this way. We'll just say you're an English major here at Gettysburg College. Sarah, I'll make you my English major. And you decide that even though you've already taken at least 1 year, maybe a year and a half of classes, you'd rather study linguistics at Penn State. You've taken 2 classes in the English department. They're both survey classes at the 200 level. Those classes will have met for 3 hours. Under the federal guidelines, 3 hours includes 10 minutes of walk time. So really you're only in class 50 minutes, and you have 10 minutes to get to your next class. That's the same thing that holds true for our 75-minute classes. When you transfer, Sarah, to Penn State to study linguistics, those survey classes are transferred at 4 credit hours, not 3. We're a unit school, so 1 class equals 1 unit. We have to account for that missing hour. Now, according to the federal law, for every hour you spend in class, you're supposed to spend at least 2 hours outside of class, either studying for the class, reading assignments, working on papers, etc. We have a middle states accreditation. This comes up every 10 years, and it's going to happen within the next 3 years. In order to meet those federal rules and regulations, we have to account for the 4th credit hour. We have to account for things that you're doing outside of the classroom. That's what this document is all about. What we did, we put together an ad hoc committee, and we came up with this document, and we're giving every faculty member 3 options. Option number 1, as you can see, is a class that already meets for 4 hours. Now, there are classes like that in the languages. There's a class like that in Spanish. There's a class like that in Asian studies. Arabic falls into that category. So we have a number of these classes already on the books. Option number 2 is for classes that you take in the sciences, Sarah, where you're in a lab. But option number 3 is where we really have to look things over. Now, in option number 3, I'm just going to read it. The course, although officially scheduled for 3 hours each week, has additional structured activities that meet special criteria. Such activities must satisfy each of the following. So a course must touch on each of these categories. Number 1, everything must be set forth clearly in a syllabus. That means when you're looking at syllabi next fall, when you're here at Gettysburg College, syllabi must have explicit learning goals, and it also must have some explanation of how the 4th hour is being managed in that class. There must be learning goals attached to the class, and those learning goals must be assessed and evaluated in the class. We could have instructionally supervised additions to the class. I'm not going to read them all, but this is probably where you have questions, because I know what you're all thinking. Oh my God, we're going to have to do more homework, or something along those lines. So why don't you start asking me questions?
So like if you have to go to a speaker or presentation or something for class, would that be option 2 or option 3?
Yeah, as long as that activity has some sort of assessment connected to it. Now, it could be something like a reflection game, or there could be questions that are set up ahead of time for you to answer. But generally speaking, I would say it would be some type of reflective moment, but not. I want to make a distinction between papers. It's not a high-stakes paper assignment. It's not a paper that you'd be doing for a 300 or 400 level class. It might be something that's a low-stakes assignment. You could even get something like a check or a plus, or where there could be some lower set of numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
And that would be the third option then?
That's under the third option, yes.
So, this is like kind of referring to, I don't want to offend anybody, but maybe the humanities class that you only beat like 3 50-minute blocks. Like I know for science.
Don't offend the humanities.
In my science class that had like a 4-hour class.
Yes, no, it really, I mean, yes, those of us who come from the humanities, maybe we're in big trouble. Although if you teach a class and if it has something outside of the class, even if you're streaming video, then the 4th hour is satisfying. I think many of your classes already have elements like this, but what we have to do for our own culture of assessment and also for the Middle States Accreditation Agency, is we have to prove what we say we're doing. We can't just say we're really good, and we have to prove that. Yeah, what I'm saying.
Right. So like the theater classes that require crew hours and stuff like that, that would fall under the earlier category where it's incorporated, or is that like experience?
I would say it's option 2, Rose. I mean, I'm going to get to read all these documents, but right now I'm going to say it's 2. It's
like they have some performances they have to do, and they have to do 4 hours to build set,
right.
so it's built into the class already.
As long as it's built into the class already. But they may have to have some identifier on the syllabus, and there may be some type of evaluation. So I'm just...
Sarah.
Absolutely, Sarah. Yes, service learning connected to any class already counts. So as I said, there is a lot of this activity going on, but we don't have any accountability. That sounds like a rather harsh word, but if we know what people are doing, even if it just comes through these documents, and we're collecting the documents, and then in the fall we'll collect the syllabi from each of the courses, not to go snooping into people's lives, but to make sure that the document and the syllabus match up. And there are these identifiers on the syllabus, learning goals, assessment tools, etc.
Robbie.
As a Senate, would we do this like a similar thing as we did with
We don't have any resolutions. I think Jack was charged with coming to start the conversation.
I'm just, all I can do, this is mandated, not this document, but this 4th credit hour issue is mandated by the federal government. We have to satisfy the federal government.
Okay, so it doesn't matter.
No.
Arson.
It was a good try.
Arson.
You know, I really like the 4th hour requirement idea. What I really don't like is there are classes which I took as a physics major that would be as much as 11 hours per week, and there's still 1 credit. And why are we still
1 unit.
The option of 1 unit?
1 unit.
Yes. Why?
Why? Because of faculty legislation. We had a debate
What are
about
the reasons for it?
What are the reasons?
Yes.
Oh man.
I mean,
we've always been a unit school.
At other schools, there is much big difference in terms of credits for taking science classes and taking.
Yes, but what are those schools? It's not Dickinson. It's not F&M. It's not a small liberal arts college. You're probably talking about an R1 university. That's why I used the example of Sarah going to Penn State to study linguistics to start. Larger universities are based on hours. Smaller liberal arts schools tend to be based on units, so course equals a course equals a course. And we had this debate when we were working on what would become the Gettysburg curriculum. There was a lot of dissension in the room from my colleagues in the sciences because they were going to lose lab credits.
Discrimination against science.
That was the previous discussion. Although you have an advantage here because of your labs, you don't have to worry about. I was just joking. Most of your classes are already 4 hours.
Logan.
Can you say in a hypothetical situation what would humanity classes do for a 4th hour in a hypothetical situation?
I knew someone was going to ask me that question, Logan, and so I decided to look at a class where there could be a real problem. So I'm going to look at English 101. That's my home department. Just so we're all, who asked the humanities question? Yes, it's my home department I'm attacking here. So how do you address the 4th hour if you're taking English 101? Small group workshops and individual meetings, but you wouldn't cancel any class time to do this. The class would still meet 3 times or 2 times a week. A film series with written responses. This could tap into existing showings here on the campus, the various cultural film programs that we have. A web blog with regular faculty interaction. This would mean that not only the professor teaching the 101 class would be doing this, but every professor teaching 101 would be involved in the blog. A campus citizenship initiative. This is something that my colleague Will Lane has configured in the English department. I'm not going to go into all the details, but essentially what Will has designed is a way to get students to engage with all of the activities that we have here on campus on just about any given night. If you want more details about that, Logan, I'd be happy to talk to you about it. A semester-long research project with a paper trail. In other words, you're developing a long research paper week by week as you go through the 14 weeks of the semester and then probably deliver it on the 15th week. And then, the final idea is a semester-long reading of an op-ed writer. So you'll be assigned, Anna's assigned Paul Krugman. She has to read Paul Krugman weekly and then comment on Paul Krugman's work for the entire semester. So those are 6 ideas.
Sam, you good? Alyssa.
It says under action that they have to average to at least an hour per week. So, for example, like for like an English 101 class, if students got together outside of class every other week to watch like a 2-hour movie and then had to write like a short, like 1-page reflection paper on it, that would count towards that. So it doesn't necessarily have to be every week.
Yes, I can see you being strategic. It's not weekly activity. At least it can be, but again, I want to go back to the beginning of this. It has to be on the syllabus. It has to be explained. And in some way it has to be assessed.
Kevin, everything you had your hand up? You're good? Caroline.
Wouldn't it be easier to make every class 4 hours?
It would make it easier. It would be easier. Well, let me just say this. This is an option. So as a faculty member, if you want to convert your class to 4 hours, you can. But the people who will feel that brunt are people in the registrar's office. So we've come up with a different scheduling scheme because you know everybody wants to teach at 11 o'clock and 1:10 on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So we don't have enough space. So we have worked out a very elaborate scheduling scheme, but we won't know until February 17th how many people are opting for the 4th hour of in-class time.
Is there any other? Oh, yes.
So, all right, so one of my majors is history here, and I've taken, courses where we've had, just for a single course, like 500 pages of reading in a week. Technically, that would not factor in as additional time because it's not documented or concrete. Is that correct?
Well, we're getting right down to the micro level. You're talking about a particular syllabus in a particular class, so I can't really answer that question. But
oh yeah, I understand the need to put on the syllabus.
Right.
I'm just saying, like hypothetically, that because that can vary. The time it takes for students, to read that many pages, that wouldn't actually count as the additional.
You're right, because this is not about homework.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Close the debate until I see there's no other questions. Jack, it's always a pleasure to have you. Thank you.
Well, thanks very much for inviting me. I hope that was everything you need. The last time I was here, I killed Easter. So this is much better.
Still angry about that.
I thought I'd leave out enough things.
Riley Park to